Rise Up and Run. Stories of deliverance and transformation through the power of Jesus Christ that allows people to rise up from bondage and run in freedom. I'm your host, Janice. I'm going to talk and then I can see that. So why don't you say something?
Well, what time are we eating dinner? All right.
Is it paused?
I have no idea.
Hey, welcome back to Rise Up and Run. I'm your host, Janice, and we have a fun guy here. He is a young man from our Rise Up group, and he has a great story to share, and he's just one of the guys in our groups that I'm so very proud of, and we enjoy him a lot, me and Bob. So his name is Steve Esparza. Did I say it right?
Steven? Yeah.
You don't like to be called Steve?
No.
That's how I got you in my phone, actually, but I better change that.
Okay, well, Steve gets on you when you get a little older, I think.
Stevie?
You know, so Steve, never Stevie. I knew a crackhead named Stevie.
It was probably you.
Mm-mm.
No. Anyway, so welcome to the podcast. I've been trying to get him on for a while, but we're here now, so that's great. So just tell me about yourself a little bit.
All right, well, I'm not from Iowa, if you can tell from how I talk. I am from North Carolina, Fayetteville. I was born in Corpus Christi, Texas. My dad was in the Navy. My mom is a hairstylist / entrepreneur, cafeteria lady, manager of a cafeteria. I came out here to Iowa because I followed a woman to North Dakota and then caught charges. And then I had family, my daughter and her mom and her stepdad lived here and got me out here. Yeah.
And it's just been fun ever since.
Yeah, well, it's been an adventure.
So you went to North Dakota. Women will lead you astray.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
And you went to North Dakota.
Yeah.
But you caught charges there, and then you landed in Iowa? Are you like on the run or something?
No. Okay, so I dated this woman in North Carolina. Her name was Brandy. We were on drugs in North Carolina, and she had, from what I figured out later on, she had a sugar daddy in North Dakota. You're gonna love my story, Janice. You're gonna love it. Well, she had a sugar daddy in North Dakota. I met him, by the way, when I was sleeping in bed in North Dakota, and he was like, "You don't know what you're getting yourself into," and I was like, "Yeah." But so we was in North Carolina, backtracking here, and painkillers at the time, Oxycontins and Opanas and whatnot, and she got out. He bought her a fully furnished apartment, paid some of her bills, and c'est la vie, she was gone. I didn't hear from her for a while. And I'm in North Carolina, I'm sitting down, I just started shooting up. And at this time I was shooting up Opanas, which is it's like Oxycontin and morphine mixed together. It's terrible. And I hated it, But at the time I was hanging out with two prostitutes, and I would hang out in the bathroom with a baseball bat, and if there was ever an issue, I'd come out. And
wait a minute. Really?
Yeah,
So were you like the pimp?
I wasn't pimping, but I was pandering. But
what's the difference?
No, I don't know. I wasn't pimping.
So
they made their own money. You know what I mean?
Would be in the bathroom, and then if something
if I ever heard like a hoo hoo, I would come out. You know what I mean? So yeah, and I was with this. I didn't sleep with her because she was having like 2-for-1 specials on Valentine's Day, so I just didn't do that.
Calm down.
Okay, so anyway, she would always got upset that I wanted to snort mine, and she wanted to shoot hers, and I was just like, I'll never do that. Well, she talked me into it, and it was just downhill since then. So, little fast forward here, I'm sitting in my Ford F-150 in my back of my mama's property, and I got a needle in my arm, and I'm watching, and I'm trying to do this. I got blood running everywhere, and I get a call from Brandy. Brandy's like, "Steven, if I were to buy you a ticket to North Dakota to come live with me, would you come?" And I'm like, I've been praying for a way out of this situation. And I said, absolutely. So she was like, good, I bought you the ticket. You're leaving tomorrow night at 10 o'clock or something like that. So I go up to my mama, and I'm like, Mama, I'm moving to North Dakota. And she said, well, be safe. Get out,
She didn't try to talk you out of it?
No, not at all.
Please stay.
No. That happened years later where she asked me to please stay or things like that. So I go. Brandy said, bring a jacket.
Bring a jacket?
Yep, and I'm from North Carolina, so I bring like a windbreaker.
Yeah.
And it's like that scene off of, I don't know if it's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, when he walks out there and he just turns right back around. It was exactly like that. I was like, good God. So we go there, and come to find out from what, from the time I spent with Brandy, that she wanted me, I would find her drug. Had to have been. So, we start going on a diet of a half a gallon of liquor every 2 days. And I managed to get in a job working at a Marriott, cooking in the kitchen. And it was just bad. She put hands on me. She beat me up a lot. I mean, like, I was really being abused.
Are you serious?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so you're a big guy.
I am a big guy.
How tall are you?
I'm probably about 250 pounds, and at this time, I was healthier then, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Was she a big girl?
No, not at all. She was an older woman. She was in her 40s. I was in my mid-20s at the time, so, she had issues, obviously, but I just wanted a way out of North Carolina. And really, the whole time, I'm like, I'm in North Dakota. My daughter's in Iowa. If I can just make this work long enough, I can get with my daughter in Iowa, here in Waterloo. So.
Greasy?
Yeah. So I get the job. I get a job working at a Marriott, and things are terrible, by the way. I remember one time, for instance, she had said something. I called her the B word, and she comes and she has this big leather belt, and she just smacks me right across the face with it. And I immediately, my first response is, I'm gonna call my mama. You know what I mean? Like, Mama. And I was like, Mama, this woman just hit me in the face with a belt. She's like, Steven, just calm down. She was like, don't do nothing stupid. Your daughter, get there, because we've discussed this plan. So I'm like, all right, and then it just gets worse. I stayed in Grand Forks, North Dakota, easily the coldest place in the United States to live. You can Google it. It is. And I lived at the time about 4 or 5 miles from the Marriott, and I'm talking about negative 70. So she drops me off one day, and she gets it in her head that I'm talking to another woman, and I'm not. So she makes me walk back, and I remember I've never been so cold in my life, but I made it, thank God. By the way, we went and bought a better jacket, so that's how I survived that. So yeah, there's just so many things. But finally one day, I did manage to find some drugs. I found some Adderall and some other things. So I just get paid. I broke my phone at work, and I'm on, I can't tell you how much Adderalls. I get home, she's asleep. So I just decided to walk across the street to this bar that was there. So I go across the street to this bar. And then in North Carolina, the bars are just bars. Around this area, they're like bars / kind of casinos. You know what I mean? Like, especially this one had blackjack tables in it. And I was like, I think I can do this. You know what I mean?
Gamble?
Yeah, I think I can
win.
I can be the best at this ever.
Yeah.
And for about 45 minutes, I think I'm freaking Rain Man. You know what I mean? So I got this figured out. I was like, I know the algorithm. They changed dealers. I lost everything. Could barely pay for my tab, and so I leave defeated and broke. But there's a 24/7 pizza place called Deek's Pizza, and I just wanted to order pizza. But mind you, I broke my phone.
And you didn't have any money?
I had enough to order a pizza.
Okay.
So I go to Brandy, and I'm like, Brandy, she's sleeping, and she's heavily medicated, you know what I mean? Because she's on like 30-something antipsychotics probably. So she wakes up, kicks me right in the face. I'm drunk, I'm on a bunch of Adderall. I beat her up. I hit a woman. All right, it happens. Police come there, I'm just like, take me to jail. You know what I mean? So I'm sitting in jail, and I was sitting in jail for about 30 days, probably a little bit longer. I had the money to get bonded out, but nobody would bond me. I have a no-hold bond. I have a no-contact order with the only person that I know in North Dakota. So I called my mom one day, and she said, I just want to let you know that, I'm just going to say, my baby mom's name is Paige, and her husband's name is Jameson. Jameson and Paige are on their way to come bail you out. They're going to do an interstate compact order. You're moving to Iowa. So that's how I got to Iowa.
This is how you got here?
This is how I got to here first time.
Wow, the first time.
Yeah, I've left and come back like 3 times.
Because you love it here.
Yeah, well.
Iowa, nice.
Yeah, they have great meth.
Oh, okay. Well, there's that.
Yeah, well,
but
yeah.
I want to go back.
All right, go back.
Let's go way back. So you
back.
were born in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad was in the Navy?
My dad was in the Navy, yeah.
Okay, so tell me about your childhood. What was it like growing up little Steven?
Well, my mom and my dad were got divorced. I've lived the majority of my whole life with my mama. I have like kind of memories of, kind of moving around as kind of like a military brat. I lived in Virginia, I lived in Florida, I lived in Texas, but, from one day, I don't recall, being a child, reasons why. I remember just coming home and there was a U-Haul and my mom said, we're moving, we're leaving.
Were your parents divorced at that point?
No, I don't believe so.
You all were still together?
My mom just finally decided that she was going to leave my dad. So that happened.
Surprised you then?
Yeah, for sure.
Just caught you off guard?
Yeah. I mean, because you're a kid, you don't know.
No,
so,
you don't.
And if there's like some behind the scenes or, mental, darked out, trauma with that, I don't know. I have no idea. But I have a great mom.
Yes, you do. You talk about her all the time.
Yeah. So I get to North Carolina, and my mama raised 3 sons,
By yourself?
By herself.
Did you have contact with your dad then?
Yeah, I would. Well, my dad was a bartender my whole life up until recently. Well, the last 5 or 6 years, I'm thinking. So he would come every summer and come pick us up and drive back, and that's where I've found my love of music. My dad had this big military backpack full of CDs, and probably one of the best memories I have is I remember my dad buying a Nirvana CD. And he would just reach his hand back there and grab a CD, and and he would come get us every summer, and we would go spend the summer with him. And we would do things. We'd go to like Adventure Island, but like the highlight of our times, like on the weekends or whatever, we would go to the bar with my dad.
And how old, you were a teenager at this point?
No,
or young guy?
I was like a pool shark when I was like 7. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I suck now, but I had really nice pool sticks. I remember he would make us Oreo milkshakes and chicken tenders, and we would have to sit in the booth, or those like games that you would play that you put $1 in, and you can play like all kinds of bar games. I was the best at Hoop Jones, the best at it.
Okay, so tell me about your brothers. How old were they, and were they with you all this time?
My brother Lewis was with me. He's my full brother, and then I have another brother named DJ. He's got some Japanese in him, you know what I mean? And yeah, my brother Lewis was with me. At that time, we got along a little bit, but my brother beat the hell out of me my whole life. Yeah, so that was fun.
Like in a brotherly kind of way?
No, like I'm gonna hold you down and hit you with this big stick, and like yeah. Yeah.
So when did you kind of go off the beaten path, or not off the beaten path, but kind of when did you sense yourself kind of falling into the drug scene?
Okay, so it kind of happened. I don't know if there was a specific person I met or anything like that, but I just remember in middle school. I didn't do drugs in middle school, by the way. I was overweight my whole life, so I decided I was going to play football and I was going to wrestle, and I did all that. I played football, I wrestled all through middle school up until you could, and then I got into high school. I did track, I did a little bit of wrestling, and I played football 3 out of 4 years of my high school stay. But I don't know. I don't really know how. I don't know how I found a bag of weed, but I remember just rolling up the worst looking joint that you could ever roll in a doghouse with a pack of matches, and that's how it started.
How old were you?
I don't know. I might have been like 15, 16.
So why do you think you started? Did you feel like your life was?
I'm not 100 and totally against people who smoke weed because I hate the big pharma, and I think there's a lot of things that marijuana can do as far as like people who have like a lot of
medicinal stuff.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I think I might have found a bag one time and I rolled a joint. That's probably not how the gateway of how I did hard drugs. I think the first hard drug that I ever did was ecstasy. And that was probably because of a girl that I really liked, and I wanted to hang out with her. And like, you see all these movies with people on ecstasy, and they look like they're having a lot of fun. You know what I mean? So I did that and had a lot of fun.
Teenager, probably?
Yeah. And then I just kind of associated with, ecstasy and everything, all this can be fun. And then I started learning what addiction really is was with painkillers and stuff like that.
Were you able to tell, like at some point, like, oh man, I'm enjoying these a little too much. Now I need them.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because I had a buddy of mine that got in a really bad car accident. And so he trashed his leg, so he always had Percocets. And I think this is how it really started, is that I would ask him for some. And then he would give me what he could until he couldn't. And then I went off and I started finding it. You know what I mean? And I think I can't give you the time or the age, but when you get your first withdrawal, you're like, yeah, this is a problem. And then you just got to go have it, or you're not going to have a very good, productive day. But there are no productive days, really, though.
So
Percocet, yeah. And my brother DJ was a partier too, man. I can't believe I almost left that out. Matter of fact, he was the first person that I ever did ecstasy with, and he was always smoking weed and drinking and stuff like that. And then from Percocets, and then my brother Lewis, I didn't like hanging out with a lot of other people. I like playing video games, and like I said, I was picked on. I was a fat kid, and my brother beat me up a lot. But my brother hung out, and they had cliques of people. And I would occasionally come around them and stuff like that. But for the most part, I just stuck to myself. So that's probably why, drugs, being able to take something that would kind of like loosen up whatever kind of anxiety that I had. You know what I mean?
Were you lonely, do you think? But you said you liked being alone. But
I like being alone.
You can still feel lonely or maybe not important. I don't know.
Like one of the best things is that me and my mom, we spent a lot of time like watching movies and stuff like that. We go get like movies at a place called Tiger Video. There'd be like 5 movies, and like Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink, and like all those movies. And so I was kind of like a romantic kid, like I remember one time my mom was like, I'm gonna go to the CD store, I'm gonna get all you guys a CD, what do you want? And my brother DJ is like Tupac's Greatest Hits, and my brother Lewis was like, I want the new Outkast CD, and I was like, I'll take Frank Sinatra's Greatest Hits, like literally, and she's just like looking at me. I was like, either that or I want like, what's that movie with the whale? Free Willy. I was like, I either want that or I want the soundtrack to Free Willy. You know what I mean? Because Michael Jackson song, you know what I mean, or something like that, or the Robin Hood soundtrack because it's a Bryan Adams song at the time, So that was me, like, and then which creates a very socially awkward person whenever you have 2 thug brothers. But with that, I was accepted, like, in the drug houses. So like I was on these Percocets, and I didn't have to go really look very hard to find who sold drugs. So I remember we were by a neighborhood called Aaron Lakes West, and my brother had a lot of friends, and I knew people, and I remember coming up to a guy that we all knew, and I was like, man, do you have any Percocets? And he was like, I don't have any Percocets. I was like, but what? He was like, but what I do have, I have these Oxycontins. And I'm like, what are those? And he was like, and there's a song very popular, and it's about Oxycontins. So I'm like, yeah, give me some Oxycontin, He's just, and like his warning was like, be careful. And I'm like, all right, and that is when you really meet addiction, is whenever you get on something really hardcore like that,
So that's more strong than
absolutely,
Percocet? Yeah. Okay. So then you graduated to OxyContin. What did you like about the feeling of being high? Because I've taken Oxy for different surgeries. I don't really like that. Maybe I didn't take it enough.
It numbs you. You just kind of get a weight on you, and it's like a good weight, and it comes in waves, and it's warm, and it makes, for me, like it would, like I said, it would make me a little less socially awkward. I had my daughter. I was in high school. I was a senior, and her mom was maybe like a junior, and I was heavy in the drinking then, and Percocets and ecstasy when I could, and like I wasn't ready to be a dad at all. I just wasn't ready to be a dad, and she wasn't prepared to be with somebody who wasn't ready to be a dad. So she found a man that's great and was ready to be a dad and is a great father, and and I think that had a lot to do with at the time with getting into heavier drugs and stuff like that.
Like the guilt of not being able to...
just heartbroken and overwhelmingly sad, because the way it kind of happened was just, I thought we were together, and like, no, she was like, by the way, I'm married now.
So it kind of covered up a lot of feelings that you just didn't want to feel. Anxiety.
And my family, at this time, passed me around, when my baby mama left me, and like, she was literally like, we had like a fight, and like, then she was married. And
caught you off guard.
Yeah.
So how'd the drug thing progress?
didn't really have a path, really gained a lot of weight, and I started working. At the time, I was working at another pork plant there, and I was doing okay. You know, I was drinking. The drugs really weren't getting bad. Really, I would like do cocaine or something like that, and I was just really sad, extremely sad. I didn't have a lot of options in regards to like women. I had a lot of hurt. I used to date a girl named Jennifer, and she was like, "Go into the military." And I'm like 300, at this time I'm like 300 like something pounds. I'm like big, you know what I mean? I was like, there's no way in the military. I was like, so I go and I signed up. I do pretty well. They have a position for me as a military intelligence, and I was going to go into military intelligence. But I had to lose 150 pounds, 125 pounds. They send you to MEPS or whatever. Like, they wouldn't even let me like in the door. They're like, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and tell you right now that you're overweight. And I'm like, all right, yeah, checks out. So I lost it all.
All the weight?
All the weight, yeah, absolutely. I lost all the weight. I would run 5 miles a day in a weighted vest, and I would do like 500 weighted jump ropes. I would do push-ups. I lost so much weight consistently that my baby mom was like, "Are you smoking crack?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not smoking crack." You know, at this time, I don't think I did cocaine.
So did you clean yourself up, like drugs?
Yeah. Like, you know, granted, through high school and stuff like that, through high school and all that, like the most I did was like ecstasy and like stuff like that. So, and I drank a lot and stuff like that. And I drank a lot. But around this time, it stopped. You know, like I would occasionally drink. I didn't have like the social circle. I kind of dropped everyone. I wanted to do this. I wanted to be in the military. This is something that I wanted to do. I was like, I told people when they're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm going in the Army." You know, they had like I've taken my test and it all happened. So like, I'm probably like 19 years old, and I'm going in the military. I'm losing the weight. In probably like a couple months, I'm going up to MEPS, and I'm going to pass the test. I'm going to go in. And I remember I probably smoked a little bit of weed. My brother DJ, like lazy, he doesn't want to roll his own blunts or joints or whatever. So we're walking down the road, and he's like, "Roll me a blunt, Steven." And I'm like, "Fine. I don't want to walk and do this." He was like, "No, we'll sit right here on this porch and do it." So we're sitting on this porch. I'm rolling this blunt, and a cop comes. Cop sees us. I throw it. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And he's like, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" I'm like, "Oh, we're doing nothing." So the cops find the blunts. He's like, "You're going to jail." I get a marijuana charge. Because of that marijuana charge, my recruiter called me and he was like, "Mr. Esparza." I'm like, "What's going on?" And he was like, "Yeah, because of your marijuana charge, we're not accepting anybody with any drug or alcohol charges."
Oh, man.
So the Army didn't do it. So I was like, "Okay, well, maybe the Marines." And the Marines are like, "No." And I was like, "Oh. Okay, maybe the Navy." You know what I mean? And I'm like, no, not the Navy. From that point, I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm still like, kind of like, what am I going to do? You know,
I feel like you finally had a goal, like something that you could work for. You were feeling good about yourself. You were proud of your accomplishments, you know, and then that just got snatched right out from underneath you. And
and the thing is that the person that my baby mama was with and is still with now, great guy. He was in the military, and I was like, you know what? If he can do something like that, and look what he's doing with his life, and I'm going to do that too. And I was going to do that. My grandfather was a Special Forces Green Beret. My uncle was a Special Forces Green Beret Apache pilot. My dad was in the Navy. You know, I'm named after a guy that in my family, that was in the Marines. So I was like, this is in my blood. And they just said no.
So did that make you, okay then, I'm going to cover my grief and sadness with more drugs?
No, there was probably some depression there. And, you know, now that we're talking about it, you know, like it's all kind of coming back to me. From that point, you know, I was like, well, I need a job. So I just was walking down the road one day, and I seen this bar. I'm like, you know, I'm going to get a job in that kitchen. And at this time, I'm still doing Percocets, drinking, you know, not doing very well funding it, you know what I mean? I think I'm right around like the drinking age, so like I can sit in the bar, you know? And so I start cooking in this bar. Owner does cocaine, the head cook painkillers, so I fit right in. Not really making good money, but they let me drink for free. Not for free, but cheap. And I think I did that for a while, but there's always been like, I want to do something better. I don't want to be just cooking this bar forever. So I was walking down the road and I seen a steakhouse that was opening up. It was very high end. It was a nice steakhouse. And I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to see if they need a cook. So I go in there and they're like, do you have any experience in cooking at a high-paced restaurant?
High end, yep.
Yeah. Do you know your cooking temperatures? And I'm like, sure. I cooked a burger before. And this is trim your own tenderloins, sirloins, cut it to size, cook it to temp. And I'm literally just thrown in this fire pit, like literally. So by the end of the month, the owner was like, well, how much do you want? And I'm like, what do you mean? How much do you want to be paid a week? At the time, I thought like this crazy number. I'm like, $500 a week. And he's like, done. And I'm like, what? To me, this is a lot of money. And I didn't have anything to do with this money, so all it went to partying and drugs, you know. So that's when it kind of got crazy for me. I had a good amount of money, and I started partying, you know. I started going to bars. I think I was a big drinker before I was anything. I would go to a bar. I would spend a whole week's check in a night buying shots and just wanted to listen to music and singing karaoke, and then you start doing cocaine, and then it's just like.
When did you start doing crimes to support your habit?
Till I got to Iowa, and I was probably.
Well, you said when you were with Brandy, she was in her 40s and you were like 25 or so. So you came to Iowa in like your late 20s?
Yeah, I had moments of sobriety. I did well in Iowa for a while. I became a supervisor at the Tyson plant working for PSSI. I was able to get my own apartment. I had a vehicle. I was doing really well. But there was painkillers. I wanted Percocet or Oxycontin. And I had family here, like not family, but family through my daughter. And there was a member of the family. We would do a lot of cocaine together, but he had became a supervisor at Tyson. So I went up to him and I was like, "Hey man, can you get any painkillers? Can you get any perks or anything like that?" And he was like, "Nah, man." He's like, "The only thing that they have here is meth." And I'm like, "Well, it's better than nothing." So we're sitting in a basement while the whole family's upstairs grilling out, playing like horseshoes, and we're smoking meth off of tinfoil.
Was that the first time you did
First
that?
time I ever did it. Hated it. Hated it. Was a supervisor at PSS. I had like 20-something employees underneath my like care or whatever, and just hated it. Couldn't sleep. I remember walking into the Tyson building and just cried. I was like, I just wish this would go away. And for some reason, but it was the only thing that kind of, besides like liquor, and that just got old, that really, that I could get a hold of.
What did meth do to your life?
It took it to a 0 to 1,000. I met a lot of people.
I bet you did.
What meth did for my life and how I started breaking the law kind of all comes together.
It's related.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had an apartment and I knew this guy, and I would give him like $50 and he would bring me back probably like 10% of what it was really. So like very small amount.
Small amount of meth.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, geez, thanks, man. And,
I can see where this is going.
So,
I might as well just sell it myself.
No, not necessarily. No, I never really sold drugs. I met this kid. He's a younger kid, and he needed a place to go. And I was like, I needed drugs and somebody to help me pay my rent. And so he gave me like $500 and always had drugs. I told him that, like, I'm a recovering IV user. I used to shoot up. It's been years since I shot up. And I remember he would leave for like days at a time, and he came back and he was like, "Hey man," he was like, "You want to get high? You want to catch one?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man." He was like, "Well, the only way you're going to do it is if you shoot it up." And I'm like, no.
Why did he care?
I don't know.
And that's the fastest way to get the...
Well, here's the thing is, like, I think that he cared because, he was miserable in it. And he wanted somebody to be miserable in it with him, but I think there's other reasons too, and that's more along the lines of, I think he was gay, and it was that's a way that people like take advantage of other people, because he gave me probably one of the biggest shots I've ever had in my entire life.
So you'd been shooting up opioids.
I was shooting up
before
opioids,
that.
yeah.
Not at the same time though.
No.
You couldn't have passed opioids and went on to meth?
No, well, here in North Carolina, all there was is opioids.
Yeah.
Not a lot of meth.
Okay.
Which, if you heard me previous, I've come back 3 times, So in Iowa, up until these last few years, there wasn't a lot of opioids at all. About 4 or 5 years ago, there just wasn't fentanyl wasn't around. There wasn't, heroin really wasn't around. So that was it. So it was easy for me to stay away from needles because I would have never thought that you could shoot meth up, or I would have never went there with it. So he had one already loaded up, and I just remember standing up at the time, and I did the shot. And I've always kind of had long hair. I just remember sitting down fast, and all of a sudden my hair was just drenched, and it was over for me. I loved it.
You loved it, but you hated it. The first time, but
I hated it the first time, but it was the only thing that I could ever find. And then after a while, you kind of you kind of figure out how to do meth. Because meth is the kind of thing where you just can't do it and just be like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed now. No, you need to entertain yourself. You need to do something. That's why a lot of them like color, or they take something apart. Or for me at that time, because I had money, I had a position, I had a PlayStation, I played a lot of video games, and so I learned how to do it. In a sense, and everything changed whenever I shot up. I slowly lost my job. I actually found a guy that started selling methadone, so I got on methadone, and I started doing Xanax all at the same time. I would have a guy bring me a bag of meth. I would go drive to the guy who sold the methadone, and then I would meet the lady who sold the Xanaxes at the cafeteria at Tyson.
Why did you do them all together? Were you just trying to get messed up?
Yeah, so it's called speedballing, really, is whenever you mix an opiate with amphetamine or anything like that. So what's crazy is like being sober for the time I've been sober now, it's so hard to explain like what I got from that, except from just, I could just go and for the time being do my job, do it well, because at the time I had a lot of responsibility. PSSI worked me, and they worked me, and I could just do that 3 or 4 days, three really strong days out of the week, and then the rest would be terrible. So
it wasn't all bad. Three good days.
Yeah. So okay, how I got into crime? I lost my job, was homeless, and at the time I'm still on probation from North Dakota, interstate compact order. I have like maybe a month left, and then I discharged my probation. I run. So I have warrants this
You
whole...
ran?
Yeah.
You had a month left?
I was so scared. I was so scared to go see my probation officer because I was so strung out on drugs that I never did. So I was with this woman at the time, and we had she's probably my second longest toxic relationship, and we had it in our head that we were going to rob one guy, and we were going to steal this other guy's car. And we did.
How did you rob him?
Well, he wanted like $1,300 in drugs.
Oh, it was a drug thing.
Yeah, and the other guy had like a nice Mercedes that we heard that he never had the title to. So we were like, okay, so we're going to take this money, and we're going to take this Mercedes, and we're going to drive to North Carolina, and we're going to move there, and we're going to get away from all these drugs. And I had somehow in my head got it in the point that I had like magically got off probation in my head. So I had this long, crazy, drug-induced trip in North Carolina. So I remember coming home, and I had the girl with me, and I said, "Hi, Mom. This is, Jessica." And she was
We'll
like,
just call her Jessica.
Yeah, we'll just call her Jessica. And she was like, "I don't know why you had to bring one from Iowa. There's plenty of dope whores here in North Carolina."
Oh.
Right to her face, man. I was like,
no.
oh my God.
Whoops.
So, yeah, I moved back in North Carolina for about 4 days.
Was your mom like...
She loved
did
me. She
your
loved
mom
me, and
loves
she let us stay there.
But had she had enough of you?
No.
Like what's wrong with you?
Okay, so
Knock it off?
at this point, I haven't seen my mom in years, like 2-3 years. So she wanted me to stay. I just remember
in North Carolina.
My mama wanted me to stay because the girl was going to leave in the Mercedes, and...
Oh, so you did steal the Mercedes?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You followed through. Okay, tell me about the not the murder. You didn't murder anybody, did you?
How I stole the Mercedes? No.
How about the robbery?
I was like, okay, the guy wants an ounce. I'm gonna go get this ounce. I'll be right back. And like, to make it a lot more like for him to be more comfortable, I even brought him into the place I was staying. But if he would have took a closer look, he would have seen that all my stuff was packed, and none of my stuff was. It was all in the Mercedes that we had stashed in an alley that the girl was waiting on. And I was like, okay, when you see me come around this back of this house, you put this car in reverse and you come pick me up. And that's That's
Oh my
what we
gosh,
did.
it's like a Bonnie and Clyde kind of situation.
We well, not this toxic relationship, but another toxic. We had a lot of Bonnie and Clyde. She was my Bonnie. And we just took a road trip, a very drug-induced road trip to North Carolina. And like I said, my mom said that very funny thing and to her. And we had got to North Carolina, and there was no meth. There was just heroin, and that was bad. Like,
So then you jumped to heroin, did you?
yeah. And then
Of course.
well, it was the only thing there was, and I'm an addict.
How about just not using anything?
Okay, that sounds
There's that
it's very
option.
easy. It's very easy to think that way. Okay, so like, this is my mindset. Oh my God, I can't find meth, but heroin's really good or strong. If I can't have, no, we were living, yeah.
No, but you were leaving Iowa to get away from the meth.
Yeah.
So my thought then would be so you can get clean. But
Yeah,
yours
we
was
wanted-
let's see what else we got here.
Yeah. Well, people always, and addicts do this a lot. They don't start talking about getting clean until they're super high. And you're like, man, you just realize you're just so high, and you're like, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah, what was it like? I mean, did you feel like why do I keep getting high? Like I don't want to get high, or were you cool with it? Were you like, hey, I'm all right?
Like there was a time, like I said, when I shot meth, I loved it. And I can describe this really well. Doing meth brought me 110% out of my shell. I was funny. To me, I was fashionable. I got along with people. I could talk to women easily. And I successfully got with women easily, which is also in the meth game. And it made me happy, like all the while tearing down everything around me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a chaos. It's all your instincts are on all your feelings and sensations are on 10. All other things that are really important is just desensitized.
Mm-hmm.
But all your animalistic instincts are amplified. So, you just want to run out in the woods and roar in a way, like.
Was your mom really concerned about you? Was she just worried sick?
Okay, so like my mom has no filter. Okay. She thought that everything was kind of okay because the last that she was talking to me in North Carolina was, I'm not going to tell my mom I'm shooting meth. I'm not going to tell my mom that I've lost everything. So she thinks that I just had this Mercedes and I just came home, but like
Like it was yours?
yeah, I told her it was mine. This is my Mercedes, girl. So she realized how bad it was when she seen me in the girl. She was like, talking with your hands, you're doing a lot of grunt noises, like, because we had our own mannerisms together, and I'd be like, oh, she's like, oh, and I'd be like, ugh. But it wouldn't be like the whole conversation. It's just hard to explain. I wouldn't say I had a tick. My hands would always do a thing when I walked, kind of. So, like, she's like throwing up gang signs when you're walking. She was just like, please stay.
So I can watch you and take care of you. And
yeah, well, she kicked me and Jessica out after about a week. She just didn't want me and her to be together. But then the girl was like, I'm going back. Well, I'm going back too. And then I just remember my mom standing on the back porch and she was crying and she said, please just don't leave. And I'm like, something I gotta do, Mom. You only got one life. You gotta live it. Life's a beach. So stupid like that. Just gotta love her, man. Her love is set in stone. Stupid stuff. So we go back, run out of gas in Indianapolis. I don't even know how we paid for gas.
I'm guessing you probably stole it.
No, we didn't.
Good job.
This is before I really got into like not caring at all about any type of like store. So I get back to Iowa, get arrested for driving without a license. They run my name. I have a warrant in North Dakota for probation violation. I get extradited back to North Dakota. Back to the coldest place I've ever been. And mind you, I wasn't there very long. The last time I was only there like during the winter. So this time I'm staying for a while. I get out of jail. The girl steals a car of her own from Iowa, comes and we stay in a hotel and I get a job. She says that she's pregnant with twins, sends my mother sonograms. My mother is a gangster, though. She's like, I don't believe she's pregnant, Stephen. I was like, well, Mom, she sent you sonograms. She was like, well, I Googled sonograms, twin sonograms, and it looks like the exact picture that she sent you, Stephen. And I'm like, what? So the whole time, this girl is like, no, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, no, you're not. She's like, oh, I'm pregnant. And she's got prenatal. She's got all this stuff, and we're sober at the time. And I'm like, I'm going to do good. I want to do good, you know. And because she's pregnant and I got to take care of these kids. We're driving, we're in a car. She's in a rental that she said that her mom paid for like 6 months that is actually like stolen.
Oh.
You know? So we're sitting there and I'm like, you know what? You're going to go in here and you're going to take this pregnancy test. And she's like, how dare you? Or something like that. And I'm like, well, you're going to do it. And she didn't do it. She said she wasn't pregnant. Yeah. Okay. So,
Good and
you
bad.
know, I'm not a terrible person. I love her. So I'm like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. And we're at one of the worst hotels in North Dakota. Literally, drug dealer to the right of us, drug dealer to the left of us, and we're like, we're going to go see Oriental Express. We're Murder on the Orient Express. We're not going to do drugs until one day we're like, you know what? You know, let's just do drugs. And
So you guys were trying.
yeah. And we did. We did drugs. And, you know, she really went crazy. And then I wound up bouncing around. And I guess the first time I ever really stole or broke the law is because it was the only way that I could get food. I was barely able to pay for a week's night at a hotel. I was barely getting by, and I just walked into a grocery store and I filled the whole cart up full of food and I walked out. And somehow from that point managed to discharge my probation, robbed another dope dealer, kicked in my first door of the house, stole a bunch of money, a bunch of jewelry, robbed a dope man, took his money, his dope.
How are you still alive?
Coerced another person to rent a U-Haul, filled it full of nothing but stolen goods, and drove it back to Waterloo for the second time. So yeah, stole the U-Haul, came back. Things with the girl didn't work out. Still shooting dope this whole time. Met another girl, and she always had nice things. She always had money. She was cool. She was nice. And I remember when we were riding one time, and she said, "Steven, do you have balls?" I'm like, "Do I have balls? I have all the balls." So we went to the store and filled up a whole cart full of nothing but brand new things. And I'm like, how are we going to do this?
That's how she got her
And
nice things.
And she was like, I'm going to go pull this car around. You're going to push this car out. And I'm like, okay. And we did it. And then after that, it was just, you know, that's what I did. And I did it very well. And I did it to where I could make good enough money to where I wasn't hurting anybody. I mean, I wasn't selling drugs. I wasn't like kicking in doors anymore. I wasn't this, like, you would call me, you would hit me up if you wanted a nice Nike hoodie or you wanted something. I was able to get a place to like live, as far as like stay in somebody's trap house, rent a room out, and pay with drugs and merchandise. The girl that I went to North Dakota with, it was kind of off and on. By the way, she's clean and sober now for a very long time. She's got like 7 years underneath her belt. She's doing really well. She had an apartment. She's very much in love with me. I'm very much in love with the world. She had to do the facility. I was out in the world while she was doing the facility. She got an apartment, and she was like, "Steven, I just want you to come live with me and do good." And I'm like, "Okay, can I have your key to your apartment?" And she's like, "Yeah." So I get the key to her apartment. I move all my stuff in there. She's at work. I'm doing whatever I want. I get another girl, fall in love with this girl, the other girl. And I remember just packing up all my stuff one day, and the girl come up and she was like, "You're not leaving." I'm like, "I'm leaving." She's like, "You're not leaving." And I'm like, "Get out of my way." I didn't hit her. I did not hit her. Like, mind you, this woman faked pregnancy and a bunch of other things, that faked an OD. She had gingivitis and her gum was bleeding. I had hit the wall of the apartment with a baseball bat. She was gonna keep my bike, and I had a very nice like mountain bike. Called the police and then told them that I beat her with the bat. Hit her in the face with a Louisville Slugger baseball bat. And I, roundabout way, go to jail for that. I do about 7 months in county jail because of that. I was going to do a lot more time, but COVID happened. So COVID came out and they kicked everybody out of Black Hawk County, like fast. The whole time I'm talking with my mom and I'm talking with the other girl. We'll call her Blue. And Blue thinks I'm staying. Mom's already talked to my lawyer and is on her way driving from North Carolina to Iowa to pick me up. I'm out of jail 2 days before my mom's in Iowa, and with my daughter, just for insurance in case I want to back out. I get in the car. I drive back to North Carolina for the third time.
Okay, but you probably weren't supposed to.
Oh yeah, I was done.
Oh, you were done? You served all your time?
I served all my time.
Free little bird?
Absolutely, I was free.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I was free. Go back to North Carolina, and just did good for a little while. It's hard to live with my mom because my brother lives with my mom, and it's just a very hard dynamic. Mm-hmm. It's very hard. I love my mom to death, but we got to be a couple states apart from each other, for too long, especially when my brother's just involved, because my brother feeds into it in such a specific way that it's really bad for me. Mm-hmm. And everybody that loves me genuinely lets me know, it's like, if you come back, just don't live with your mom.
So you ended up back in Iowa at some point, right?
Yeah, okay. I start shooting up fentanyl in North Carolina.
Good grief. Do you have any idea how deadly that is?
Yeah, well, not at the time. Well, my brother had a lot of it, and I knew a guy that made shake and bake meth, but that was like every once in a while he would give me a little bit, and that would like hold me over. My addiction wasn't nowhere near as bad as it was. But my brother had always had heroin or fentanyl. I remember one time he gave me some, and I literally OD'd, and he was like, called the ambulance, and he Narcaned me, and he was like, don't tell mom what happened. And like this is all happened in the front yard. And my mom's like watching Netflix. She didn't figure it out till months later because our walls are paper thin, and like I said, she's a detective. She's like, oh yeah, by the way, I know why you got that mark on your nose. Apparently you OD'd last week. And I'm like, oh my God. She's been through so much. But okay, so I wound up shooting up with bad water, and I get meningitis in my lower spine, and paralyzed for 3 months. Had to have spinal surgery. Had to learn how to walk again. You would think that would be my bottom, right? Not. So I get out, start walking again, and years before that, I met this other girl. We hated each other in Iowa, Waterloo, Iowa. We hated each other, couldn't stand each other. I thought I'd never see this girl again. I'm sitting in a bar in North Carolina, 1,000 miles away, and I see this girl walk by, and I'm like, what are you doing here? She was like, are you stalking me? And I'm like, are you stalking me? And I wound up being best buddies. I get depressed when I'm living at my mom's. So this whole time, I'm just like, I'm gaining so much weight. I'm depressed. I can't get a job. I can't, even if I get a job, I have no transportation to get to this job. I'm just sad. I'm sad. Nothing's happening. There's no movement here. I meet this girl. She's like, you know what? I'm about to buy a car and I'm going back to North Carolina.
Wait a minute. I thought you were in North Carolina.
I mean, back to Iowa.
Okay.
Third time back. And this one I'm still here. We get in a car, drive back. It was an adventure, the drive, and that's when it just really. I get back and I meet Blue. Me and Blue always stayed in contact. We like, I love you too. She was like, I just wish you were here. We get there, she is on heroin. I am off of it. I'm like, no way. She is doing terrible. I do everything I can, as far as a criminal goes. I get us a place to live. I do all these things. I really do the best I can as a struggling addict that doesn't know what else to do but break these laws. I wound up getting arrested. Cedar Rapids made news, top news. Had warrants all the way from Des Moines to where I got arrested in Bed Bath & Beyond. Was crime. This is all me coming back. This last time was Crime Stopped 3 times. Was Crime Stopped Most Wanted on Facebook. And at this point, I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to get high anymore. At this point, not only am I doing meth, but I know that Blue is doing fentanyl, and we've got like this gap between us, and the only way that I can fill that gap, if she's not withdrawing, then we're closer together. So I start smoking fentanyl with her, and then she likes smoking crack too. So like at this point, I'm shooting a lot of meth, smoking fentanyl, and then I'm smoking crack. And I have a pocket full of money and a pocket full of drugs. because I would just go to Harbor Freight and get a $1,000 generator, and then go to a Fleet Farm and get anything that you would want that would be Milwaukee, and I knew people that would give me good money for it. So I always had money and hated it, loved having the new stuff, hated my lifestyle. I've been stolen from so many times. I would move in with people and I'd be like, all right, well, I'll fill your whole house full of groceries. I'll clothe your kids. I would do all this, but just let me stay here for a while. And they'd be like, okay, move me in, kick me out, keep all my stuff, start all over again. And then it was just like over and over and over. Me and Blue started stealing cars. We started doing all kinds of things. And then finally I met this guy. He's like, listen, man, I know a place that's got like $20,000 in it, maybe $30,000, something like that. And he was like, just let's go and I'll split it with you. Okay, so I go, kick this door in. I'm thinking he's grabbing the safe. I bag the house. I was like, like I'm doing my thing. You do your thing. We meet, we're walking out. And he's like, oh, did I say it was apartment number 9? It might have been number 11. So I just robbed this completely innocent person. And every other door that I've ever kicked in was either a drug dealer or not necessarily Robin Hood type stuff. It wasn't really in me to kick in some random person's door. Or I went to a lot of abandoned houses and if nobody was living there or if your name was on the obituary, I'd probably go into that house. With no living relatives. Yeah. But
oh boy.
And then wound up that guy told on me. He said that I was the one that burglarized that place, and I got a third-degree burglary charge. And at this point, I had warrants in Des Moines. I was on probation in Cedar Rapids, Waterloo, and I needed to talk to my probation officer in Waverly, and I just could never get up with the one in Waverly. I'm trying to go to court this whole time. It's January 10th. I go to the court. I'm sitting in court. Cop comes up to me. He's like, you got an arrest warrant for Waverly? I'll go to jail. I'm thinking I'm going to get drug court. My lawyer says 5 years in prison. The whole time I'm like going on this run. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm doing like 4 or 5 stores a day.
Like a crime spree.
All the time.
Like one last hurrah, or
no, I'm just gonna wear a different color COVID mask. I'm gonna put these blue light glasses on, and I'm gonna wear a hood, and I'm just gonna do it all over again. And then I had it in such a way that I was never in the store for more than a minute.
So you wanted drug court, was it? But I'm guessing it probably wasn't because you wanted to get clean.
I didn't want drug court. I wanted the facility.
Okay.
I wanted the facility because I wanted like honest stability.
Did you? Or did you just want to not go to prison?
No.
There's that difference.
Well, here's the thing. The whole time I'm learning. By this time, I've already contracted hepatitis C. I've lost several back teeth, thank God. I was paralyzed. I had spinal surgery. Drugs had really beaten me up. And I was just so tired. My mom, every time, Stephen, by the blood of Christ, she always like, by the blood of Christ, by the blood of Christ, and she always say that. So my mom's prayers have been with me my whole life. But I would tell myself, if I ever go to prison, I'm going to read good books, I'm going to get my hepatitis cured, I'm not going to get in a gang, and I'm just going to do good. So I go from Waverly to Blackhawk County to go see the court, and then I go see my lawyer. I'm like, okay, so when we start the facility, he was like, man, you're going to prison. He was like, the best I can do is I can give you a universal plea, and they'll be able to absorb everything that you have, and you'll just have to do 5 years. You'll probably do 18 months on it, and then you'll just be done.
Had you been to prison before?
No, I've never been to prison once.
You are.
I did a lot of jail time.
Crime dude, and you never went to prison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I got away with a lot, allegedly. That's why I got that tattooed on me. It's so stupid. But okay, so when the guy was like, "You're going to prison," it was just like, okay, all right. This isn't bad. This is like from day one, from the minute you're going to prison, I'm like this. I was like, thank you, God. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. I'm going to read these books. I did. I got into not your main prison, but you go to what's it called?
Oakdale.
Oakdale, yeah. I get on the kiosk. I'm like, I have hepatitis. I need this tooth fixed. I need this tooth pulled. I need this, and this. And I'm like, I started reading 21 Day Brain Detox. It's a Christian-based book. You know, I start journaling. I start writing. I'm doing push-ups. I'm doing burpees, and that never stopped until I was released. I got in a couple fights just acclimating to prison. Like, I met people, though. I met a crowd that wasn't affiliated, that had my back, that we worked out, and it was okay. I didn't have the best time in prison, which I thought was a very learning experience.
You're not supposed to.
Well,
But you said
when I
you
say the
never
best
went to
time,
prison, though.
I went to prison one time.
So you went to Oakdale, and then where did you go?
I went to
Animals?
Clarinda.
Clarinda,
Yeah.
okay.
And when I say I didn't have a good time in prison, Clarinda, they give you boots, okay? Unless you can afford shoes. I was able to afford one pair of shoes. I literally ran through them in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, they were broken. They weren't the best shoes. I didn't have a lot of money. My mom did the best that she could. My dad, he helped. But apart from that, I didn't have anybody holding me down. You know what I mean? When I say I didn't have the best of time, I didn't eat very well. I ate a lot of steak trays. I wasn't very comfortable, but I had a TV. It was humbling. It humbled me. And it slowed me down, and I had people come up to me a year into my bid, and they'd be like, "Listen, man, when you first got here, you moved weird, the way you walk. I just want to let you know that you completely changed, And I till this day now, I have a buddy of mine that I call, and he messages me all the time. He was like, "I'm so proud of you." My nickname in prison was Gator. He literally wants to give me a SUV, and I'm like, "No, I got a plan." Well, I would just tell myself that I didn't go to church too much, because I had a hard time going to church with some of the people that went to that church. I did go to NA. I did read spiritual books. I tried to read some. Who's the guy that wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis. But his religious books are nothing like. It's hard. I did read The True Meaning of a Man was Viktor Frankl, I believe. Great book. I read good books. So my head was going in the right places. And I prayed, and I was like, when I get out, now that I've got this fixed, and my hepatitis is cured, and my teeth feels good, everything's good, I just want to get a job, and I want to pay bills, and I want to know what it's like to work on my credit. I got out. The girl that I was talking to, Blue, she went to prison too. She got out around at the same time. So I'm thinking, we're just going to get out, and we're going to do good, we're going to be in love, and I outgrew her. I'll love her to the day that I die. She loves me, but there's parts we're just not on the same wavelength anymore. I live a very different life.
How much time did you do?
I did just under 2 years.
Okay, and then you got paroled or work release? How'd you end up back in Waterloo?
So I was sitting a work release in Waterloo.
And how did you hear about Hope City, Rise Up, and all of that?
I heard about Rise. Okay, so this is funny. So I heard about Rise Up because I'm going to say his name because I love him. It's Joe Bondi. I used to do a lot of drugs with Joe. I'm in the facility, and the guy's like, "Go to Rise Up," and I'm like, "What is Rise Up?" "Oh, there's good food. You'll never guess who runs it." And I'm like, "Who runs it?" And they're like, "Joe Bondi." And I was like, "I'll check it out." When I first saw Joe, I was just like, this guy's full of shit. Sorry for the words, but it's real. Joe's like, "Well, just come to service, come to church. At first, I was like, I'm gonna check this out. And it's not that I was raised in the church with my mama, so God has always been a presence. Jesus has always been a presence in my life. But I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go to church. Sit in the back. I don't sit in the back anymore. Saw Q, and then
Q is our pastor at
Yeah.
Hope City Church, Quavadas Marshall.
Everything was a lot for me to handle when I found out Q did time in prison, and lived a life that I was very familiar with living, and it kind of hooked me in. You were there at a few Rise Up meetings. I was just upset. I didn't know where I was, but I know I didn't want to live the life that I was living, that I promised myself I wouldn't live anymore. And I just kept coming to church, and I started meeting people at Rise Up, and those people started inviting me to things, and then I started listening to a lot of advice that people like doing devotionals and reading and just praying. I've been saved for a long time, but getting baptized and committing myself to Christ, and then before you know it, God is just on your mind all day long, and then everything that you really want to do, you want to be pleasing to God. So, yeah.
How long have you been clean?
I've been clean. So, I count my clean time from the time I went to prison, which January 10th will be 3 years. I'll be clean. Yeah, 3 years.
That's great,
Yeah.
Stephen.
Yeah, 3 years. I'll have 3 years under my belt. And I couldn't imagine ever doing drugs ever again. It's like Tommy says that.
Tommy's one of our Rise Up buddies.
Tommy's my best friend.
I thought I was your best friend.
You're my best female friend.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so Tommy says that, God just completely eradicated his addiction out of his body, like it was never there, and that's just what I believe as well. I believe that my addictions have been eradicated. I'm going, it's only an inch at a time, but I'm still moving forward, but it's still going forward. I got a plan. It's working. It's hard. It's lonely, but, I have family here that love me. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to figure it all out. I'm going to continue going to my church. I went to the Forge conference. I'm going to go to the other Forge thing,
That's like a intensive men's study.
Yep.
Right.
I still get up. I go to Rise Up. Me and Tommy, we co-lead a group. Next month, I'm going to go to leadership classes, or if they'll accept me, I don't know. I have a lot of weird tattoos, but they might accept me.
They'll accept you.
I'm just going to keep praying every morning and doing my devotionals and just giving it to God and just like knowing that I couldn't have done it without Him. It's a miracle,
How is your life different now? I mean, what kind of feelings did you have when you were involved with the drugs, and then like feelings now that you have freedom?
I can say that my refrigerator is full, and I have an apartment that's mine. The clothes that I buy, they're mine. I don't have to worry about if I'm sitting on my porch and I see a cop that I'm okay. You know what I mean? I don't hurt nobody. Any and every people, all the people, I guess you could say that the crowd that I keep, the people that I keep around me are godly people. So
which is huge.
Which is
Don't you
huge
think?
and absolutely huge. But also godly criminals / thugs, except for you, Janice.
Except for
You're not a thug. You're
you don't know me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
But
But great people, and that's a freedom. I'm kayaking. I'm doing hot yoga. Like every Tuesday with Tommy. You know what I mean? Like
Tuesdays with Tommy.
I go to the gym 4 times a week.
You have your Bible sitting on your coffee table, and that wasn't staged for when we came
No,
over.
absolutely no. It's always there. Yeah,
You say you get up at 4:00 and you read your Bible, and who are you? Right
now I'm doing devotionals and I'm praying for other people, and I'm starting to just do this thing with Robbie where we're doing discipleship. We're talking to the homeless on Monday nights, and like my schedule is just like really like what, and I'm saving money. I'm working on my credit. I'm doing all
the fines. You're going to get your license back.
I'm paying off my fines. I went on my own and I started paying all my civil fines, which you have to do, and I'm responsible. If you want to know what I'm doing on a Friday night or anything like that, last night I cooked a pot roast with mashed potatoes, and I watched a Netflix series, and I hung out with a nice lady and held her baby. Today, my morning, I woke up I got several phone calls from Tommy Tucker at 6 o'clock in the morning, waking me up to make sure that we went to work out for 3 hours at the gym, and then I went with him. I went with Tommy to go to Plato's Closet to find cargo shorts for him to wear on his vacation, And then we went to Kohl's, and I was looking through clothing racks trying to find his waist size. So yeah, and now I'm doing this, and then And then tomorrow morning, I'm going to church. I'm going to tithe, like I've been doing. Not quite 10%, but not.
You were doing great.
I'm going to tithe, and then I'm going to go to the Rise Up table, and I'm going to do some promoting and try to get somebody signed up for both services.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do Growth Track, because it's just
up.
yeah. So it's about time I did Growth Track too, like everybody. But everybody wants me to do security because I'm 6'4". Like, oh, you're security. I'm like, I'm not doing security. First of all,
Even my husband, the ex-cop, will not do security.
I'm not doing
He's
security.
I've had enough.
Yeah.
But I love what Rise Up has become and the people that it's helped. And you are such a great leader in Rise Up. People look up to you, mostly because you're like hilarious. Yeah. But you're just like such a good role model. A good role model, not a bad role model. Stop it. I'm gonna comment and raise you up, lift you up, because you, I don't remember the first time that I met you, but who you are now, Bob and I, Stephen is very special to me and Bob. He's one of our favorites. And so we have him over. He would only come over if we made him dinner, though, tonight. So that's partly why he's here. But he is just doing so well. And I feel like I can kind of sense when people are for real or not. And Stephen is for real. And I'm so proud of him. He is a leader. He is just a good guy, just a good man. And I'm just honored to have him here and to have him in my life. So there you go. What great things do you want to say about me?
I could tell you this. I can tell you this. I was like, when Mom visited, she was like, "Those are your parents here in Iowa." You know what I mean? They're listen to them, and you and Bob have been nothing but a blessing to my life. Me and Bob, we go see movies. We seen Deadpool. 3. We did some kayaking. We pray together. We have a lot of good conversations when it's me and him in the truck. He's someone that in fours they say sometimes you just need some guys that you can just tell everything to. You know what I mean? And we have those conversations. And me and you, we laugh. It's so easy and so fun to talk with you. You know what I mean? I feel like I can say what I want. I have been working on my mouth. It's one of those things that I'm really, really, really trying to work on is what my tongue.
You did good today. Bob was like,
I'm
"Hey,
trying so much, because it's so hard, but it's in the Bible a lot more than I thought it was. What your mouth, your tongue.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that.
Well, I'm just gonna wrap up, but I'm gonna pray, and end it. Lord, what a blessing it is to have Stephen in our lives and to just see your handiwork in him. When I hear of the stories he shares about what he was like before he really devoted his life to you and what he's like now is just nothing short of what you can do. I mean, it's just only because of you and the grace and the mercy and the kindness that you've shown to Stephen. I pray, God, that you would continue to bless him, that you would bless him with a new job where he finds fulfillment, give him direction in his life so that he knows exactly what he's supposed to do. And he will just continue to give you the glory. I know for sure he will. God, I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, buddy.